Welcome to the Diplomats. This is Shakir Din Shahin. Today we are in the Spanish Consulate General and we are going to interview with Spanish Consul General Mr. Aurelio Perez Giralda. Mr. Perez Giralda, welcome to the Diplomats.
Thank you very much.
Do you mind if we do this interview in English?
I do mind because, of course, my language is Spanish and here I should speak Turkish, but I don't speak Turkish as fluently as I would like. And if I speak in English, it's at your own risk because, of course, I will speak vulgar English, which is what we use for meetings and for conversations between people who don't speak English properly. With this condition,
I wish I could speak Spanish, sir. We could do it then in Spanish. Mr. Perez Giralda, can we start talking about the history of international relations between Spain and Turkey, when and how it started, and how it came to this level?
Well, one normally speaks about a big confrontation of Spain and Turkey after the Renaissance in the 15th century. In fact, it was a confrontation between the Ottoman Empire and the Habsburg Empire. The main enemy of the Ottomans were the Austrian-German Empire. The fact that for a time the Spanish king was the Emperor Charles, that made a little confusing idea that Spain and Turkey were confronted. In fact, they were, but in a marginal way, in spots of the Mediterranean and so on. But, of course, this confrontation caused an interruption of relations between the Ottomans and the Spanish, which lasted for at least 2 centuries. Only at the end of the 18th century did Spain send an ambassador to Turkey. That means that in the meantime, all the European powers, France, Germany, Germany didn't exist as such, but Austria and Italy, they had their big embassies in Istanbul, in Constantinople as it was called, and Spain was absent until, as I say, the end of the 18th century. After that, the relations were normal, but were also under the condition that both the Ottomans and the Spanish were having their times of decadence as big powers.
One of the historical links between the two countries are the Jews who escaped from Spain in the 15th century, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
What's the situation of Spanish Jews in Turkey?
Well, they came here because they were expelled from Spain and also because they were attracted by the Sultan at the time, who considered himself very clever, and he said so because he attracted people that were very useful for the development of the Ottoman Empire, as administrators, as artisans, etc. With time, Spain has felt that it should recover somehow the link with those people who were expelled, and has had a policy of granting nationality or protecting these people. At present, the relation is very good, and I am very much in close contact with the Jewish community in Istanbul.
This reminds me the alliance of civilizations that prime ministers in Spain and Turkey initiated. What can you say about this alliance?
This was originally a Spanish idea, and it was based on the fact that within Spain there had been at times a certain coexistence of civilizations. Jews, Arabs, and Christians coexisted for many centuries, and then Spain offered Turkey the possibility of co-sponsoring this idea, because also in Turkey that situation had existed historically. So it is in a way natural for both countries to think of these civilizations as something that can be together. And of course, from the point of view of international relations, the idea that we had as something natural in our own countries seems to be possible to do at the level of two different worlds, mainly the Islamic world and the Christian world. So it was promoted by both together in the United Nations, and it became a program of the United Nations that has developed many initiatives and many actions to promote understanding between civilizations, meaning more or less religions.
Can you be a little bit more specific about the initiatives and the events that took place within the Alliance of Civilizations?
Well, mainly what I have said is that this was an idea that was expressed first by Prime Minister Zapatero of Spain at the UN. And then it was offered to Turkey that they could be our partners in promoting this idea. And there were two consequences of this. An important group of intellectuals and people from religions were gathered together in order to give ideas on how to put into practice this alliance. And then it was asked that the United Nations took over this project because it was thought that it would be more effective. It was promoted from the top of the international community. So the United Nations took this idea and started asking all the countries to contribute ideas and to try to implement the idea of an alliance of civilization, of coexistence, peaceful coexistence between religions in their own countries. In Spain, it was, of course, since we were the country that initiated this idea, all the ministries which could contribute some kind of activities, for example, education, culture, and foreign affairs, were asked to develop this in their own competence.
This is not the only area of cooperation between Turkey and Spain. We know that Spain has been one of the supporters of Turkey's membership to the European Union. Can you a little bit explain Spanish position towards Turkey's membership to the European Union?
Well, it has been always a position of support. We have had, in the last 15 years, a very strong development of bilateral relations. We have no conflict at all between us, and we have certain similarities that made us consider this the natural thing that Turkey should be part of the European Union, having no conflict. And I think that has been supported by the majority of the political parties in Spain, with nuances, but both the government party and the opposition party, they are for this idea. And we try to help during the Spanish presidency of the EU. We try to help so that some of the famous chapters that have to be negotiated in order to achieve this goal were opened, and in fact at the end of the Spanish presidency we also left as a legacy a certain progress in the negotiation.
And it has always been appreciated in Turkey. Mr. General Consulate, what is the situation of bilateral trade relationship between Turkey and Spain?
Well, as I say, in the last 15 years, 10 years more or less, can be considered of a very surprising growth, really. It is true that both Spain and Turkey at the same time started a path of great economic progress, and in that sense the relations improved very much In spite of the fact that, as we were talking at the beginning, the historical conditions were not favorable because we had been apart for a long time, and when you start and you try to improve commerce and improve investment, then there are certain difficulties if you have not been established since long there. You don't have the contacts, and you don't have the infrastructure. Your companies don't know about the Turkish market. But as I say, in spite of all these difficulties, the growth has been extraordinary. So only from 2009 and 2010, the growth of commerce was 24% in 1 year, and it was rather balanced. We have a trade of almost 7 billion euros, shared almost equally, 3 and 3. So investment has been the same. Investment 6 or 7 years ago was almost nothing, investment of Spain in Turkey. And in 6 years it has been from nothing, or perhaps 100 million, to 3 billion in investment. So, and lately there was a very important operation by one of the main Spanish banks that bought 25% of one of the main Turkish banks. So this is going to improve because the investment of the financial sector in a country brings about other companies that follow because they use the services that banks can offer. So the situation is really of great progress, although naturally now we are in the middle of a crisis that has affected Spain more than Turkey, and this has slowed down in the last 2 years. But in general, we think the conditions have now given for an improvement again.
Now that you mentioned the crisis in Europe, what do you think about the future of Euro?
I think Europe has been through many crises, and it always seems that it is going to fall apart. Mm-hmm. And at the last minute, a compromise is found, because we have to